Introduction. The present volume is the second in the series, which includes writings and speeches of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Many of Dr. Ambedkar's books went out of print. However, those were available in the shelves of libraries and those interested could read them. But his work in the assemblies and parliament is not easily available, with the result his contribution to the development of Indian constitutional law is not adequately recognized. Dr. Ambedkar entered the Bombay Legislative Council in 1927. He was renominated in 1932. In 1937, he was returned to the Bombay Legislative Assembly in the general elections. The assembly was prorogued in 1939 when the Second World War broke out. During this period of 12 years, Dr. Ambedkar played multifarious roles in the public life of the country. In 1927, he conducted the famous Satyagraha at Mahad to establish the right of access of the depressed classes to public places. In 1929, he pioneered the Satyagraha at Nasik for temple entry for untouchables. In April 1927, he roused the public conscience. He started a fortnightly bulletin in Marathi called Bahishkrit Bharat. Through its columns, Dr. Ambedkar wrote articles on various social, political, and religious subjects in his own chaste style of Marathi. These articles have now become specimens of the best writings of Marathi journalism. In 1928-29, he was elected a member of the committee to associate with the Simon Commission. He was also elected a member of the State Committee, which made inquiries into the educational, economic, and social conditions of the depressed classes and aboriginal tribes of the Bombay Presidency. Thereafter, Dr. Ambedkar was nominated as a British India delegate to the Round Table Conference held in London in 1930. This was followed by a proclamation of communal award and consequential starting of fast unto death by Mahatma Gandhi. Dr. Ambedkar passed through this ordeal indomitably. The Pune Pact that followed brought out Dr. Ambedkar as an unquestionable champion of the depressed classes of India, which claim was hitherto denied to him. After the Round Table Conferences, Dr. Ambedkar proclaimed all-out war on caste and Hindu religion. In 1935, he proclaimed, "I am born as Hindu, but I shall not die as a Hindu." 1936 saw Dr. Ambedkar pleading for conversion of religion by the untouchables. Soon he was involved in organizing labor movements, including the one for abolition of proprietary rights of landlords, that is, Khoti, and also for abolition of Watons of Maharashtra's Mahars. He also founded the Indian Labour Party and fought battles for the rights of labourers in and out of the assembly. Such were the salient features of his activities. Part 1 of this volume includes his speeches in the Bombay legislature on varied subjects, example, university education, primary education, Khoti system, Mahar Watan, industrial disputes, prohibition, minister's pay, maternity benefit for women employees, linguistic estates, participation in the Second World War, etc., and also his considered views on the budget. We've also incorporated his questions put up in the legislature along with the replies given by the ministers. Dr. Ambedkar's views on British control are reflected in the speech which Mr. P.J. Roham delivered. This speech and Dr. Ambedkar's evidence before the University Reforms Commission of 1924 are enclosed as appendix to this part. We have also included the draft bills on Khoti and Mahar Watan introduced by Dr. Ambedkar and his note of dissent to the Smallholders Relief Bill. The Part 2 includes his work with the Indian Statutory Commission, popularly known as the Simon Commission. This contains his independent report regarding his views on changes in the constitution of the Bombay Presidency, his 2 memoranda submitted to the Commission on behalf of the Bahishkrit Hitkarani Sabha, and his oral evidence before the Simon Commission. We have also appended a note submitted by him to the Lothian Committee on Franchise. In the Parts 3rd, we present his speeches in the plenary sessions of the first Round Table Conference, his arguments in the minorities, Subcommittee and fight for safeguarding the rights of the untouchables in the future Constitution of India, and his role in the Franchise Subcommittee as protagonist and advocate of universal adult suffrage. In second roundtable conference, we find him crossing sword with Mahatma Gandhi on the question of untouchable rights in Minorities Committee. His examination of various witnesses as a member of the Joint Committee on Indian Constitutional Reform is also presented as much in detail as possible. We do not propose to elaborate in details or analyze the value of this book. Apparently, the book presents Dr. Ambedkar's thoughts on varied subjects between 30s and 40s. They may be found relevant even in the context of the present day problems. The volume may be found useful not only to a scholar but to a general reader as well. The students of political philosophy, history, sociology, economics, and particularly of Indian constitutional reform may find sufficient food in this work. We gratefully acknowledge the permission granted by Her Majesty's Government by the United Kingdom for reproduction of excerpts from the unrevised minutes of evidence of the Joint Committee during the roundtable conferences. The India Office Library and Records, London, also deserves our gratitude for giving us Dr. Ambedkar's rare photograph along with Sir Muhammad Zafrullah Khan taken at the third roundtable conference. We are indebted to the librarians of the Bombay University Library, the Legislative Council. Library Bombay, Gokhale Institute of Politics and Economics, Pune, Dr. Ambedkar Research Institute, Nagpur, and Director of Archives, Government of Maharashtra, Bombay, for their help and cooperation, without which this volume would not have seen the light of the day. We have no words to express our thanks to the Director and Deputy Director of Government, Printing and Stationery, and the Manager and the staff of the Government Central Press, Bombay, who worked hard for a speedy publication of this volume. With all our efforts and due care, we cannot claim immunity from errors which might have inadvertently crept in. Readers are requested to send their valuable and considered opinion, which will be taken into consideration in the next print. Editor.